At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
"2014 has been proclaimed as the year of the young professional in Sacramento. As the baby boom generation begins its transition into retirement, there is an increasing focus on the generation beginning to make its mark on the future of the region that they will inherit. Are the decisions we are making today reflective of their aspirations and needs? 3 emerging leaders will talk about what Sacramento needs in order to attract and retain our future workforce. Joining us are Dr. Michael Marion, Dean of Student Services at Cosumnes River College and Vice Chair of Metro Edge; Dean O'Brien, Chair of the ULI Young Leaders Group; and Emily Cameron from Threefold Communications and the Chair of Metro Edge. Emily, are you surprised by all of the focus on young professionals this year?
You know, I'm not. It's a fantastic group of young professionals that truly are forging a new path in Sacramento and the region as a whole.
And you all have come together. There are numbers of leadership programs, but you all are really coming together in a way that is unique and hasn't been seen before. What's going on?
Well, I think our generation, you know, it's very implicit that collaboration is a key to success. And really this started several years ago with the past leadership from Metro Edge, from ULI Young Leaders, and the various other groups involved, where we decided, you know, as a cohesive voice, we have much more power than as one. And so we've come together here, and now we're ready to plan a young professional summit, the state's first young professional summit called Emerge. And really it's a catalyst for conversation. It will bring us all together to converse, learn, and empower for growth and get our influential young professional voice out there.
Dr. Marion, what do you think has brought Sacramento to this moment at this point in time?
You know, I agree with what Emily was saying. I think it's one of those points where it's a critical moment where we can really set the stage for what the future of Sacramento looks like. And I think the elders in our community are starting to understand that it's time to help the young professionals be successful and lay out a path for them to follow so they can make sure to carry the flag in the future.
Dean, you're with the ULI Young Professionals Group, and the Urban Land Institute looks at placemaking and communities. What do you think the impact of the recent victory in retaining the Kings has meant, not only for the region, but particularly the group that you represent?
It's truly an exciting time in Sacramento. As Michael just said, we have a chance to forge a whole new direction, and I think we're one of the only areas in the nation where we have a chance to double the size of our downtown now with this Catalyst project that's coming online. Between that, the rail yards, what's going on over in the Bridge District, and the River District, it's really creating an urban core, and we're making significant investments in our urban core that have not been made for years. It's time for the old leadership and kind of that cowtown mentality to step aside and let some of these new young leaders to really come to the forefront and push projects forward that make sense, that create scenes, that create place, and that create areas for us to come together and really feel like we can be proud of Sacramento.
I'm curious, what project or what initiative excites you most right now?
You know, I'd say the arena.
Really?
And the reason for that is that it's a catalyst. It's the first step in several dominoes for our region. It's that project that's going to bring us all together. It's one uniting front. And then I think from there, it's the downtown core, it's the housing, it's retail, it's all of the things that will bring the residents, the visitors, the shoppers, and really be a catalyst for the region.
Now, it's interesting you talk about that. Now, I'm a real estate developer, you know, in my real life, and I have a large project downtown called Township 9. And so we love to hear all about this desire to push the urban environment. However, your generation has also been at the vanguard of the farm to fork movement that really Sacramento is becoming known for. How do you reconcile all of this focus on the urban environment, Dr. Marion, but at the same time, you all are very involved in bringing back farming to its centrality of this region's experience?
Absolutely. I think agriculture is the major, we have a major jewel here. And I think with the Farm to Fork movement, it's an outstanding movement. It reminds me of a lot of the things that I grew up seeing in Portland, Oregon, having all these different communities that come together to do all these wonderful things. I think the movement with the arena is great, but I also think about also the other pockets, what's going on in West Sac, what's going on in Meadowview area, what's going on in Oak Park area. Some of the things that the mayors are doing down there, I think we need to implement those things in some of these other surrounding communities, because once we do that, I think that's also going to help us retain some of these young professionals here in town.
What is the relationship, Dean, between the folks that are focused on mining the bounty of our agricultural assets and those who are more focused on the urban experience?
I think there's room at the table for everyone, and I really think getting back to that authentic sense of place and really who we are, not trying to recreate something and make us the Portland or the Austin or the Philadelphia, but bringing those great things from those cities to this area. One of the projects that really is exciting me is the public market idea. I was fortunate enough to go back to Philadelphia on the study mission this year with the Metro Chamber, and to see Reading Terminal and how many people that attracts every single day, 365 days a year, was phenomenal. To see Oxbow in Napa or the Ferry Building in San Francisco, how can we not use one of those old shop buildings in the rail yards or someplace in close proximity to what's going on with the arena to draw people on a consistent basis? I think with that, we also need to be cognizant of kind of the transportation needs and the infrastructure. And one of my passions really is cycling and bicycling and that pedestrian-friendly environment. I know a lot of cities like New York and Chicago have made it a lot safer to bike commute and to get out there and walk with your family, ride with your family. And I think we can make major strides as we implement these projects and these large-scale developments come online by incorporating more pedestrian, cycle-friendly.
It's interesting you should raise that, because one of the things that American Transportation Institute study recently documented about your generation was that it is very important for you all to have transportation options and choices.
Absolutely.
How are we doing right now on transportation options from your perspective, Emily?
You know, in Sacramento, I have to say I'm disappointed. I think, and I can speak on behalf of a lot of young professionals, even Metro Edge, we've polled our members, and it's a top concern that they want public transportation options. They want to be able to jump on light rail. They want to be able to take a bus, ride a bike, because it's that sense of community. It's part of that community building to be able to engage actively in the community rather than solo in a car for 30 minutes. And Sacramento has some real opportunity to grow there.
And if you could see one change or two changes, Dr. Marion, that could be implemented in order to improve that experience in the next few years, what would it be?
I would say it would probably be with the building of the arena. That's going to be key. And I think that's going to force us to have more transportation, because people are going to want to be able to get downtown a lot easier. So I think that's going to be critical. But also I think it's going to be, how are we partnering with our institutions of higher education to allow Sacramento to be a youth-friendly place, a place that we want to have people here.
That's an interesting thing you bring up, because one of the concerns that I hear raised all the time is that this region is not necessarily sticky for people from your generation that we actually grow and raise here to stay in town, or those that we would like to attract from other areas to come here. What is it that we've got to change?
I really feel like, I'm sorry to jump in here, but we need to do better about creating a scene, like in Austin with the music scene, or up in Portland with the craft beer or the restaurant scene. We have those things, and we're starting to move those things forward with the success of things like Bacon Fest Week and Sacramento Beer Week and those kind of things, where it gives something fun for everyone to come together, but still ties back to those roots in agriculture. And that, I think, is going to drive tourism to this area and make it a little more sticky for people that like a nice cup of coffee and like to ride their bike down to the local craft brewery. We have those things here, and they have those things in Portland too, and I think we can kind of leverage that a little bit better than we have.
Well, and I think that brings up a really good point. As Sacramento, we have an identity crisis. We like to say what we don't do well.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, we like to talk about things that we could do better, things
Yeah.
that we don't do well, things that we're missing. We never talk about what we do, what's fantastic. Why is it so great to live in Sacramento right now? we have.
Okay, give us the 30-second speech on that. What
Well,
makes it so
besides the
great?
young professional crowd, right?
Yeah, other than you three, what else do we have?
Honestly, the Farm to Fork movement, I think, is going to be a defining part of Sacramento. It's that, you can live local, you can not only buy local, you can live it here, you can experience it here. There's truly that connection to the land, to the people, to the region that I think that other places, in particular in California, just don't have. There's not that connection that there is here.
Now, incidentally, Emily, one of the things that was fascinating that came out of the study to Philadelphia that Dean was just talking about was the fact that according to the learnings that were brought back, that people within your generation make decisions completely opposite than my generation and those before, which is that we follow the jobs. You all follow the experience and then find the jobs. How does that work? Explain that to us.
It's a little bit of, we joke about the work-life balance. I think that was a little bit of probably the generation before us. It's how do you get that work-life balance? And now our generation is saying, rather than balance, how do you experience it all? And so that means that life part of the equation is just as important, if not more so, than the work side. Because we know, where we are, the jobs will come. And so when we choose a place, we want somewhere where we can ride our bikes. We want somewhere where there's a great dining scene, where we can really participate in the community and have that passion for where we live.
Well, you talk about participating in community. Documentarians like Michael Moore did a documentary many years ago called Bowling Alone and talked about the fragmentation of American society. Well, folks from my generation look at social clubs and things like that as how it is that we interact. Has technology kind of turned that on its ear, and so you all actually do have a sense of community? It's just that you don't experience community in quite the way it's been historically defined?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think with the technology and media age that we're in right now, I think we can connect a lot easier. And so we can find out things about Beer Fest or Baking Week or those types of things that can connect us a lot easier. And so for me, I think the generation just has better access to inquiring and finding information that will allow for us to connect a little bit more than probably the previous generation did.
So are we measuring are we measuring your generation's participation in civic affairs using the wrong metrics?
I think that definitely could be the case. So you're not going to look at the same thing in terms of a huge march or people holding picket signs, but you will see a social media campaign blitz for really significant causes that people are passionate about, like the American River Parkway or major events that are going on locally, where social media is a huge tool that I know we're all leveraging in our own personal groups, and it creates, I think, a deeper connection when we do actually come together in a real world setting. And it really tees up the discussions and drives forward those really important discussions that are really tough to get going sometimes. But I do think that the old guard, if you will, doesn't really understand all the facets of the social media and how it can be used. And I think that's where we can kind of step in and say, I think if we do it this way, we're going to have a more effective end result.
So we started out talking about the arena and all of these opportunities between the Bridge District, the rail yards, my project Township 9 and others to be able to really repopulate the downtown area and create this vibrant center. But that speaks to the city of Sacramento and West Sacramento. But what about Folsom? What about Granite Bay? What about Auburn? What about these Woodland, our surrounding areas? How do we make sure that they are part of all of this?
Well, I will say, from a young professional standpoint, one thing that we've done is we've started to initiate conversations where we're all part of the we do monthly calls, we do email chains, we have communication methods where it's everyone from Placer, Yolo, El Dorado, San Joaquin, Sacramento County, and we're talking, what are we each doing? So not only are we in the loop as far as who's doing what, but looking ahead, where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses, and where can we best fill in so that, for example, in Placer County, if there's the university campus that they are talking about, where can we as a region lend support? And vice versa, when it comes to the arena, how can Placer and El Dorado County lend their support? And that goes back into that collaboration framework and fabric that we're talking about.
So what type of amenities do you all need here other than transportation in order to make this the sort of place where it is that A, you want to stay, but B, someone else says, Sacramento, good place to be?
I think it's a lot of it's going to be being in allowing the community to embrace us and allowing the leadership to embrace us. I think another thing that's so big about this piece that we don't talk about a lot is that a lot of the jobs and opportunities that are available are those seats are filled right now with some folks from the baby boomers. And so we have the millennial.
We're hanging on by our fingernails, let me tell you.
Exactly. And so you have some of us young professionals who love this area and want to stay here, but the opportunities are limited. And so what happens is we have to look at some other surrounding regions and surrounding areas, but that's not what we want to do. But I think that's going to be a key component to keeping and growing and retaining talent here in Sacramento.
Now, some of the things that have been done on that note is, the creation of Metro Edge and Leadership Sacramento and ULI and the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program and Catalyst and others. All those programs are attempting to connect and elevate the young professionals of this region. What is it that they need to do more of?
I think we need to have more programs and organizations like the Nehemiahs and the Metro Edges and various other organizations like Leadership Sacramento, because I think what that does is open the door, and that allows us to break through the glass ceiling that's out there. So many times, so often we have the talent, but it's just being able to somebody to help tee it up for us. And I think it's going to be more organizations like that are going to have to nourish us as young professionals and allow for us to be able to help set the tone.
Incidentally, full disclosure, since I'm the founder of the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, I just want to make sure that we're doing that.
I do think going back to the whole what amenities or what civic amenities are really going to keep us here is I love to see the baby steps we've taken to really develop the riverfront. I really think the rivers are our crown jewel along with American River Parkway. But to see what West Sac has done on that side of the river, and now it's finally spurring some activity on our side of the river, I think that's really a huge placemaking endeavor that's finally showing some traction, and we are going to make something happen, especially when you even go further down the river in the docks project and being able to link all these things, especially with something, I know the idea of the streetcar, going back to the transportation, which I think is so huge in this discussion, is linking everything together, bringing the people from the different neighborhoods and allowing them to circulate and move around in a small urban area.
I just have to say that you referencing the streetcar, it's sort of hard for me to connect your generation, getting really wild and bothered about streetcars.
Well, Portland.
You'd be surprised.
Portland uses their streetcar. It's phenomenal. You can hop in, hop off every 10 minutes. You could take a streetcar from Rayleigh Field. Oh, this at least what they're proposing down here is take it from Rayleigh Field all the way to Midtown and be able to hop on, hop off. I think that would be a phenomenal linkage and create some of that place that we're missing. And I think that's why, I don't know, I just go back to my transportation geek kind of, we need to be able to get around, and that's the knock on all this is with the arena stuff is how are we going to be able to deal with all the traffic? Where are all the cars going to go? We need to get creative. We need to think differently. We need to get out of our cars and onto the sidewalks and onto the bike paths.
And I think that brings up a great point, in particular looking at West Sacramento. Mayor Cabaldon has often said, don't be status quo, don't be happy with the status quo, think outside the box, blow up the box. And I think that's very indicative of our generation. As leaders, we're saying, we don't have to do it this way because that's the way it's always been done. Let's strive for something better because it is better, and let's see how we can make it happen.
Well, let me give you a cynical counterpoint to that, and let's see how you all respond. And that is that many times people look at the work of what's going on in trying to build the urban core, and that your group wants housing and amenities and all that sort of thing. But the cynical retort is, wait till they get married and start having kids. They're going to be out in a suburban split-level ranch-style house, going to every chain store in the world, because that's just what happens. And so it's a field of dreams where they may not come. Reaction?
The bounce effect. We talk about that a lot in terms of we don't have, especially when it comes to education in the schools, especially for primary school, don't have the options in the urban core. And you are going to have to look to a charter school or a private school if you're going to raise a family down here, unfortunately. I do think along with the mixed use and bringing in the retail and the residential and the office, we also need a couple of good schools. And I would love to see an urban university and some investments made.
Well, are you all involved though in urban schools? For instance, recently Jonathan Raymond, who just departed, as the head of Sac City Schools, came up with 2 facts that were really fascinating. Number 1, he said that schools in Oak Park now, the public schools, have some of the highest test scores in the entire region. Number 2, he said that the public rarely participates in anything related to K through 12 education, especially the younger generations who are the ones that are going to have school-age kids. So while you're out at the brew pub and enjoying Bacon Fest, are you guys allowing participation in public education to kind of go to the side?
No, I would actually.
This is about accountability.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, and I would actually argue, to some degree, there really hasn't been a seat at the table for young professionals in education discussions. The business community, I think in the last few years, has really stepped up and made a concerted effort to include young professionals, and vice versa. I think we've really, dug our way in and asked for that seat, and I think public education is the next one. It's the next frontier. It's, how do we, because that's a key to retaining a world-class talent base, is that education system.
Dr. Marion, you're an educator. What grade, A through F, do you give your set on education?
For me, I volunteer. I volunteer at Valley High School, and so for me, I'm an educational buff. That's what I do, and that's what I enjoy. But I do know that the talent that's needed to retain strong teachers and professors within the K-12 system, and also our institutions of higher education, is critical. And I think that's going to be critical even in the future, because we need to be able to help not only educate our young professionals and our K-12 through our K through 12 folks, but we also need to make sure that we're preparing them for the future. And so for me, that's going to be critical. And so when it comes to education, I think that's something that we can all do. I don't think it's to put it on the young professionals. I think it's a mixed bag. I think we all.
Well, the reason I put it on the young professionals is because the old professionals haven't necessarily done such a great job in the first place. I want to go back to placemaking for a second. So I'll tell you an interesting story. Gordon Fowler, who you work with, and another gentleman named Ryan Vanny, who has an agency called Buckwild, both told me the same fascinating thing about when they're trying to recruit people to come to work in Sacramento for their firms. And that is when they pick up people at the Sacramento airport, beautiful terminal, they drive them down I-5, but instead of getting off at J Street, they get off over at Q, bring them up Q to 16th, bring them up 16th over to J, and then bring them down J and then move over to wherever it is that they're going to go, because they don't want them to see the view corridor of coming into the city on our main arterial of J Street. I was amazed by that. You got a reaction to that?
I completely agree. I'm a native of Sacramento, so I've seen a lot of those storefronts on that section of J just sit there stagnating. And K Street was the place where people came together. That is the history. Those are the roots. And I am hopeful with the arena kind of sparking that catalytic effect that's going to, I think, run that entire length of the K and J corridor, that a lot of those opportunities are finally going to come to fruition, and there is going to be life breathed back into those old buildings. Because I completely agree, it's sad when I drive people down J Street, and especially after dark, when it's not the safest place where you necessarily want to come and walk around and hang out. But we're starting with baby steps, I think, and there has progress that's been made. And as Emily pointed out, I mean, the catalyst at the arena is unlike anything that we've ever experienced here in Sacramento.
So Emily, if you're talking to a friend of yours who's thinking about relocating to Sacramento because they have a job opportunity, but it's secondary to the life experience they're going to have, how do you sell her?
On Sacramento?
Yeah.
It's a community. Honestly, that's the best selling point of Sacramento. There is a lot of placemaking, there are a lot of projects, but the community, the fabric of who we are, that's the best selling point. It's the people, it's the talent, and more importantly, it's that connection to the community. I think that's where our young professional programs are playing such a key role. It's creating that connection to the community. And so whether or not you're a transplant or you have 4 generations of family here, you can come and be an active participant.
So if you all collectively and all of the groups with the many hats that you wear could come together, if there was one thing, just one thing that we could accomplish in the next 5 years that you think would move this region forward into being a more attractive place for you all to stay and to attract others, what would it be, Dr. Marion?
We would need you to retire.
We're not far away.
My name is Michael Marion, and I'm Studio Sacramento host today. I think that's a huge question. I think it's so many ways we can go out of that. I think what the Metro Chamber is doing with the next economy is key in this whole fabric of moving everybody forward. And I think they're doing a great job to help lay out where we need to go.
All right. In our final moments,
I completely agree wholeheartedly. It is about attracting, I think, one big corporation and using that as a domino effect. I mean, West Sac, again, I keep going back to West Sac, but they've done a great job luring companies over there and creating this industrial, sleepy town into a great area to live and play.
and Emily, I'm going to give you the final word.
I would just say we're at a tipping point, and right now, which way we tip will dictate our future.
Thank you. Well, that's our show. Thanks to our guests and thanks to you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syphax, at least for the moment. See you next time right here on KVIE.
At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
All episodes of Studio Sacramento, along with other KVIE programs, are available to watch online at kvie.org/video.